Chris Hadley?
Here.
Lonnie Hall?
Yes.
Debbie Wright, yes. Morgan Henderson?
Yes.
Ralph Bain is absent.
That brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a combination of the bills, the minutes of the September 9 meeting, and a special meeting on October 2nd. If there are any questions, we need a motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call vote, Deb.
Debbie Wright, yes. Chris Hadley?
Yes.
Morgan Henderson?
Yes.
Lonnie Hall?
Yes.
Treasurer correspondence?
I gave you the treasurer's report.
You did
I
what?
didn't get it, it's upstairs on your door.
Treasury report. Did you put some in the back? Okay. So the treasury reports consist of what is actually in the accounts. It's just all this for the one, you don't have to,
That's what you told me.
that's what we want, no, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. So that shows the money that's in the checking accounts. Make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make that motion.
One second.
Been moved and seconded to approve this treasurer's report. All in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence. Want me to read these? Everett Township will hold an open house invitation. It's to invite us to join the celebration of the completion of our meeting room Township Hall Edition, dedicated to all the township resident and municipal associates. If anybody's been attending, interested. That's it? Okay. Announcements? Any announcements? No? Agenda changes? Okay. To the bottom of the agenda, we want to add discussion on a garden club.
How about the post office?
It's on there. Update on CPU is on the bottom. If there are no other changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any petitions? No. Any public comments at this time on items on the agenda? If there are none, we will move on to department reports. Bob?
Campground maintenance and cemeteries, we'll start there. I don't exactly know what day it was, but we had Halloween in the campground, and kids trick-or-treated. We had a really good time in there. We played music. They had a Marquita Bernard came to the campground, she played. I think we had around 150 to 200 people came. We had a pig roast there. The pig was really good. Everybody brought a dish to pass. Then we went out on a hayride, and Charlie was driving the tractor, and the tractor broke down in the middle of the night, and it happened to be at Gene Hauer's campsite. Rick RJ was there. He says, well, heck, let's hook up to my truck. So he took off and drove the kids through the campground. And he said, well, how many laps? And I said, well, 5 or 6. They're like, at the end, they're going, hey, mister, can you stop us? I think he had more fun than the kids. So anyway, that was really a nice thing. And the big job we did last week, it was basically last week, was the transfer station job. We took out 14 trees. And all I don't know how much concrete I know, but we poured a lot of concrete, it seemed like. In that cemetery, we had 2 burials, and then we'll be winterizing this week. And we're also keeping an eye on our cemeteries, because I know what happened at Reynolds Township. And I hope it doesn't happen to ours, but we're watching real close. They got ripped off for all of their veterans memorials over there, so. we're watching, so I hope that if they do come, we'll catch them, so that's my report.
Zoning, I think we had 6 permits issued this month. We've had 3 or 4 complaints, a couple on barbed wire fences and dogs barking and pretty much the same normal zoning stuff we see every month. So not a lot going on there this time of year.
The 2 court cases.
Oh, we have 2 court cases going on. Most people that come to these meetings have heard us talk about in the past, the 2 houses that we have that are being condemned. One is up on the river and about ready to fall in. We went to court on that on Friday. And they gave them 60 days to do something with it. And the reason the judge gave him 60 days was because the man that lives there, his sister is coming up to take him to find a new place or to move back down home with him, so that he can be out of that house before something has to happen. But it's 60 days, and then that will bring the 2 cases right up to the same level of where we're at with them. And from that point in time, we will petition the court to allow us to go in and do something about these 2 homes to get rid of them. So that's where we're at with those.
Did you keep the transfer station?
I did, oh, I'm sorry, we'll go back to John first.
Oh, he's helping us.
I was helping you? All right.
He's being a gentleman right now.
The other house is over on King Street. The house over there that's been condemned for probably about 4 years. It's about how long ago it was condemned. So it's just nothing ever got done or followed through with it.
Are people still living in them?
They're not supposed to be though. John, transfer station.
Okay. Well, all cleanup days went pretty good. We did 4.5 dumpsters, which is a little bit less than what we did for the springtime and summertime one, but what was expected. There was the new improvements are looking good up there, and the amount of waste is coming in good.
Billy.
Fire department was slow at fire runs. We had 1 fire run last month, and it was just a down power wire. We're up on medicals. We had 17 medicals. We're starting into the fall time, so we're doing a lot of training on like chimney fire season, and we've been out flushing dry hydrants. So if you see our trucks out and about, that's what we're doing. We're flushing out the dry hydrants, getting ready for winter. So everything is smooth and everything's going great. That's all I got.
And next month, you will be coming with a list of
Next month I'll be coming with a list of officers. Yes,
officers and stuff, because we have to get an appointed deputy.
Yep,
Okay, and then we'll just do the officers, so at the next meeting, you'll have a list for us,
correct.
of recommendation, okay. Okay, that brings us to the road committee, which is normally Ralph's presentation. He has, all 4 projects are essentially finished, and we're waiting for final billing from the Nuevo County Road Commission. Thus far, all projects that they've done has come in under budget, and probably right around 10 to 12% is what they're coming in. Once the 2013 project goes, we'll be developing the plan for 2014. The projected cost for 2014 stands roughly at $212,000 in addition to the published 3-year plan. We have roads that have been submitted and considered by citizens. 76th Street, Front Street, 52nd Street, west of Chestnut. We will complete a list to submit to the Nuevo County Road Commission and then develop a total plan for the 2014 that cost should be around $300,000. The pathway project is surveyed and prep work prior to paving is moving along. Croton phase should be completed before weather sets in, but the Big Prairie will not be finished. That might not be true. If you notice, they've actually started staking and moving into the Big Prairie, so there's a chance they may go all the way up through. We thought they were going to end at the township line, but it looks like they're going on up there. So a grand opening could take place for that in May. People are using the pathway already. You see the joggers and bikers rolling down through the gravel part there, so it's a little more room for them to get past there. The final cost for the 2013 plan and the proposed 2014 will be discussed at a future meeting. In January probably is when we'll do that. So, any questions on that? Croton Township Library.
Thank you. Basically just getting used to and getting to know what the library's like, staff members, and anybody that stops in, come say hi. I'll see what you're doing. And also, we're going to be doing pumpkin painting this Saturday. Okay? That's about all right now.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the agenda. The first thing on our agenda tonight is the audit report.
Hey, I'm gonna walk you through the audit report, just a brief overview. I'm gonna turn to page 2. The first full paragraph, under opinions, is an unqualified opinion, which is the highest opinion you can render as an auditor, an opinion report. And we'll keep moving on to page 4, go over the financial highlights. The assets of the township exceeded its liabilities at the close of this fiscal year by $3,316,216. And this represents an increase of $145,231. And of that amount, $1,915,575 is unrestricted, and may be used to meet government's ongoing obligations to citizens and creditors. During the year, the township received $1,244,803 in revenues and incurred $1,099,572 in expenses, which resulted in a net increase in net position of $145,230. And of the total expense, $207,790 related to the business type, that would be the campground, and the remaining related to the governmental activities. At the end of the current fiscal year, the unassigned fund balance of the general fund was $339,677, or 90% of the general fund's annual expenditures.
99%?
99%. The state recommends 50%, so the township is carrying a healthy fund balance, unassigned fund balance. We'll go to page 6. Second to the bottom line in the chart there, this paints a good picture from year to year, from last year to this year, of the increase in unrestricted net assets. And then on the following page, the third line from the bottom of that chart shows the change in net position of the governmental and business type activities from year to year as well. And then if you want to turn to page 12. I want to point out the cash and cash equivalents of the governmental activities is $1,549,757. And then at the second to the bottom, the unrestricted net position was $1,662,023. And for the business type, the campground, it was $253,552. And then on the next page, page 13, it's similar to an income statement, revenues minus expenses, change in net position is at the third to bottom line. You'll see the $137,403 for the governmental activities, and for the business type, it's $7,828. And then on the next page, page 14. I'll point out the unassigned fund balance of the general fund at 99%. Is $339,677. And then if we turn to page 16, similar to another income statement, revenues minus expenses. The third bottom line, you see the change in fund balance was $61,446 in the general fund, which is the main operating fund of the township. And then if we go to the last page of the report, the schedule of findings and responses. Croton had one finding, which is typical of a smaller township or village. It's the preparation of GAAP or governmental financial statements, which is the year-end adjusting entries that we do for accounts payable or payroll. Just to keep that in mind. And then if there's any questions, I'm trying to answer those now.
I just have one.
Sure.
It would be back on page 9.
Okay.
When you go to page 9, the increase in the fund balance for the general fund was $27,000.
That must be in your report.
Okay.
We get that correctly.
Okay, my only question was, I think we moved some other funds over into the general fund.
Oh,
like
yes,
that
that's correct.
postal. That's why that one page says 61. But in reality, from bringing money in this year and spending money, we underspent by this 27,000.
Correct.
That's why I want to make sure the board knows that if we didn't underspend by 61,000 this year, we underspent by $21,000. And this is, we talk about this money in a lot of these meetings, and the reason we talk about it next year, if we can come in and do the same thing, we will use that excess money for some of the projects different board members want to do. They want to get some different equipment. We need it at the campground and for the leaf collections, different docks down at the boat ramp, some improvements to the boat ramp. We're going to set up projects with what we come in under because our fund balance is now 1 year. 1 year's expenses is what's in our savings account in essence, right?
Yeah.
So that we can do this again and put some money away, we can spend a little bit of it next year. But I want that number to be very important and everybody to understand that's the number we're dealing with, not the 61,000.
And if you want to turn to page 44, you can see which funds were transferred into the general fund. It's the building fund, transfer station fund, the postal fund, and the capital improvement fund.
Yeah,
And that's a new governmental accounting standard,
yep,
because they're primarily funded through the general fund.
right. So those amount the difference between the 27
Yes.
and the 61.
Yep.
So we didn't underspend by 61, we only underspent by 27. That's what I want to make sure everybody knows and understands. The other money we had, it was just in different funds. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure I had that right. Any other questions? Any public questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
We received a letter from Thomas Boogart, welcome to the meeting tonight. And it was in concerns of some music and stuff that went on at the Driftwood. And you asked to come in front of the board, Tom, and we'll take any time you need or try to answer questions you have or whatever you want us to do.
Okay. Let me just review
Yeah.
quickly. On September 2, there was a concert at the Driftwood, and the the language was obscene to the extreme. I don't want to go into that at all, but, and so one is hired and they sing within a building, then people can choose to be there or not be there. But these are public concerts. And then that brings myself, but all the other cottagers as well, into the conversation. So my question really to you as the board, and I'm thinking I'm bringing it to the right place, what is your understanding of the nature of these concerts, and what are the rules that govern them? That's essentially the question. So I would like to hear from you what your understanding is, because I'd like to avoid having a situation like that happen again.
Yep. I will only speak for myself and allow every board member to speak to you two times. The way I understand is the Driftwoods had bands going on over there for years. I've been to them, many of us in this room have been to them. We've all seen, and I can't think of the name of the guy that performed that day, but it's just the type of what he does. Okay, right or wrong, it's common to wherever he goes, people turn out to hear him. Because he's funny, it's a little commentary with the whole thing. It's not the normal band that plays at the Driftwood. I did bring a copy of the noise ordinance, and I gave it to everybody here to review. I'll give you a copy this evening if you don't have one. And it talks about noise leaving your yard from after 11 o'clock to 7 in the morning, and it's pretty much an unenforceable piece of paper. And fortunately, we have a law officer here this evening that can either comment, or if he doesn't want to, I understand. But
It's unenforceable on our part.
there's nothing they will do as far, hang on a minute, there's nothing they will do as far as this noise ordinance. Now, what I can tell you is I've seen Don's bands and what he's done over there, and he follows the timelines when he's outside of the noise ordinance. So at 11 o'clock, he shuts the band down. Now, the night this occurred, the crowd itself took up some money and tried to keep the guy going because they were enjoying what was going on over there. And again, I understand the language and what it was. I don't think it's the norm. Okay, so what I'm saying is I think Don and the outdoor band at the Driftwood, there's nothing that we have today or currently on the books that will stop that from happening. Now, what the intent of the future is of this board, it wouldn't start with us. It would start with the planning commission. If they intended to pass something to try to prevent that or stop that in the community, they would do that. Now, we could ask them or direct them to start looking at that. Okay.
So you're not responsible, you don't feel accountable?
No, we are accountable for everything that happens. This board is ultimately accountable. If we would ask the planning commission to start down that road and they refuse to do it, it would be our job to reappoint people to that board to make sure it happened. But yes, accountability lies here with this board. And if you're asking if the accountability of this board is going to start tonight to stop the outdoor bands at the Driftwood, I can't see
No, you're
that.
misunderstanding. I'm not talking about stopping the bands. In fact, I think the bands are an asset to the community.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is when they go public, then all of a sudden the interests of the other cottagers come into play. There's issues of volume, there's issues of content. And what I'm thinking is that these other cottagers have rights too, and they have a right to have their rights balanced. So what I'm talking about is not the elimination of the concerts, but balancing of the interests of all the parties involved. But there's also, as far as I'm concerned, there's also Michigan obscenity laws. You can't just say anything you want in a public situation.
Okay, and we've got a guy to ask that right here, because if they're on the books for Michigan laws, he can stop that now.
Well, I do know that you can swear, like, we do a lot of that down with, if we had a problem with that this summer, with the tubers. And there's nothing we, it was a belief that you couldn't swear in front of women and children in the tax. So
Can you talk about rape?
That's your own opinion when you start talking about that. That's called freedom of speech, I suppose.
So you can, I think in this county, you can pretty well say anything you want anywhere.
I'm not going to I don't have the verbiage in front of me, so I'm not going to say either way.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot here by no means. What I'm saying,
I'm
right,
surprised by that.
right now, currently, I know we have a noise ordinance to try to prevent some of this stuff, okay? And again, I'm not trying to pass the buck or anything here. I mean, if it is the start, or if that's what the intent of the people of Croton want, is to stop people from saying what they want, then we need a petition. We need something along that lines to get that direction going. We've had nothing, Tom, like that, okay? So we have a noise ordinance in here. Don tries to follow that to the best he can. And he sticks to it. Now, again, I've been sitting here for a year now, and I have not had many, 1 to 2 complaints on the Driftwood. Okay? And I understand what happened that day, and Don has apologized and said he'll make sure it doesn't happen again. But I've had complaints on other things right along with it that, I want you to know we're not doing nothing about them either. I mean, I get more calls, and this is sad, on the church camp than I do on the Driftwood. Okay, when the kids get down there and get to singing their songs at night, the neighbors call the next morning because they were too loud down there. And I don't even know how to answer that, Tom. Are you kidding me? Come on. It's a bunch of kids singing, having a good time. Leave them alone. So I get the complaints on all of this. And I don't want you to think that I'm trying to just say this. And again, in your comment, you made friend of my friend Don. Don at the Driftwood is not my friend. I barely know the guy. I mean, all I've known is from walking in and out there the times I'm at the Driftwood. Otherwise, I don't know Don. But I'm not going to treat him any different than I'm going to treat the church camp. Okay, and I think what they do down there to enjoy themselves, some people, sometimes you got to have a little give and take here. And I understand what went on was very offensive. And Don has said he will make sure that doesn't happen again. So for that one time, he has apologized and said, we'll stop that. I don't know what direction this will head from here, if any. But again, that's just me. So the rest of these board members feel free to speak.
So you did have a conversation with Don?
I went there that evening, we talked, and the reason I wrote the letter is I didn't feel like my concerns were heard, so I felt I needed to go to a neutral party.
Okay, so you didn't hear the apology that he's talking about?
And what I'm really after here is, look, I love our place. We bought the old money place. We're building it up. We want to make this a place for my family, for my children, my grandchildren. So I want it to be a safe place. I want it to be a good place. And I want to have the confidence that, that there are some restrictions in this case on what can happen there. So that's really what I'm after. And I guess what I'm looking for is when the speakers are contracted, someone's got to tell them these are public concerts. There's all, there's 100 other people all around that are going to hear what's going on there. So I think that has to be taken into account. These are not private concerts; they're out in the public.
Tom, in your conversation with Don, did you ask him to, if he has that gentleman or any band like that, to keep that inside and not have it outside?
No, we didn't say that. No.
What do you want
to wear?
That could be one way, if he's got it, if he's going to have a band like that, to have it inside and not, and the people that want to hear it have to stay inside, rather than on the deck.
I guess I don't understand, did you not know that they did bands at the Driftwood before you bought the house?
Oh, absolutely. But I never heard language like this, and I'm sitting there with my grandchildren, and I got to take them into the house. Because we're talking about sexual organs, and we're talking about sex acts, and we're talking about rape, and this was unbelievable to me.
But I thought it said in your letter when you went and talked to Don and he stopped it.
Right. But then the person announced, he said, we have to stop now because a neighbor complained. And again, I felt that was inappropriate because first of all, it was an hour and a half beyond the stated time. So I felt in that sense, with a group like that, why would you bring the neighbor into it? It wasn't really about, it was about other things, really. Yes, I complained, but I complained because I think it was out of line.
Right, but do you think Don went up there and told the guy, announced, it doesn't seem to me like you're giving Don a chance. to correct the situation and let's sit back and see what happens. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like we're doing that. It seems like we're, okay, we talked to Don, he stopped, see, you move it in there and you've been here for a month and you're already coming and wanting us to change our ordinances.
Well, wait a
In
minute.
the township.
I disagree with you there. That could be any neighbor moving in beside me.
Hang on. I will give a chance for a little public input on this, so just,
But I guess my
Well, let's
biggest
finish
point
up.
is that I think we should give him a chance, you know, before we go take this any farther than this.
Well, I gave him a letter and invited him to come tonight so we could talk.
Yeah.
now,
So that, what more than what can I do?
and I did personally stop and see Don and invite him tonight. And when I say Don apologized, and Tom, you correct me if I'm wrong, we stood right here, right where you're sitting tonight, after a planning commission, or a ZBA meeting, and talked about a fence,
Yeah.
and how we were gonna work this out, and said something about the music again, and Don even said that night that was, it won't happen again. When we were standing there that night talking about that stuff.
I didn't
So
hear that. He might have said that.
that's where I was bringing that from, is he said that won't happen again, and that's where I was taking that from, so. Again, I mean, I think Don has said, I'll put a fence as far as the gas and working with you, and you guys are gonna get together and meet over that and try to work out how that's gonna work out the best for both of you. Okay, so I see, you know, Don trying to work with you and get that area done. And the reason Don said he didn't come tonight was because he would get frustrated about this. And he just said, it is what it is. He goes, it happened once, it won't happen again. He said, I don't know what else I can do. So, but again, I did personally invite him to this meeting so that he could be here to say something about this, so. But again, I don't want to get into a bunch of screw around match here, nothing about this. I mean, input we'll take if you feel there's a direction we should go, and those are the type of comments, we'll take a few of them, but then we're gonna move on, so. But again, Tom, I'm gonna let you finish with anything you want.
Well, I haven't heard that, but I'd be more than happy if that's what Don said.
Okay.
Because that's my concern. I realize you can't control everything, but you can control something. And I don't really appreciate what you just said, like I don't have a voice. I've been here for more than a month. I'm a part of the community too, and I also represent a lot of other cottagers. There are concerns, and all I'm trying to do is voice that concern. I think this was really out of line, and it's sticky because I really don't want it to happen. But if he says he'll take charge of that, that's kind of what I'd like to do. But I haven't heard that.
Okay. Yes.
As a person sitting in the gallery here, I appreciate what you've done, Morgan. It sounds like you did address it. And Tom wasn't aware of it. It sounds like he received that. But what I'm offended about is what Lonnie said. Didn't you know? What I'm saying, if I'm a neighbor, my neighbor moves in and uses that kind of profanity, I think we have a right to come here and say something about it. So I think that was out of step on it.
Yep.
But I'm glad you addressed the issue, Margaret.
Hang on, Dan, go ahead.
Been a long time, and perhaps to ease his tensions a little bit, the gentleman's here, and with probably legitimate reason, if that's what he heard, which I don't doubt. I've been down a block from the Driftwood for 20 years. I've heard everything that's come out of that band. Yes, at times, there are things that I personally rather not hear. But you know what? I live here. I've grown up here. I deal with it. I think that particular situation was an isolated situation. I've never personally heard a band that bad that he's explaining. I've never heard that. But that's not to say I don't hear them all either. All I'm saying is I believe that was probably an isolated situation. And on Don's behalf, it probably won't happen again. That's all I want to say. I don't think you'll ever hear that again.
No.
A couple of things I'd like to say. First, I commend this gentleman for being as calm as he is. If my neighbor started playing, he does play music, good music, and I like it. But if my neighbor started playing the verbiage that came out expressed in that letter, and probably most people here would be offended to the point where we would end up here, as this gentleman has just said. I'm offended by Lonnie's remark that initially you should not expect it, you moved in next to a bar. The gentleman has expressed to me that I knew it, I like it, I don't have any problem with it. I have a problem now with the verbiage that has changed. But the real point for my comment is, I'm appalled that Dunn chose not to be here tonight. And go along with that, he chose not to even express why he couldn't be here, death in the family, whatever. But I think he's a coward for not being here. And, pardon me, the way that we respond to that is just don't use his bar. Now, the final comment is, there is one thing that I would have asked for if I had been the gentleman sitting to the right of me here. Apparently, we're hearing that he apologized and has said it won't happen again. Would he be the gentleman this guy is and give the board and Tom a letter that states that? I would believe him if he did that. I don't believe it by hearsay.
Hold on, and Bill, I appreciate the comments. What I don't like, and I'll tell you straight up, I don't like his name calling, okay?
What's that?
I do not believe Don Westfall in any way, shape, or form is a coward. And I don't think any of us should sit here and say that about
For
him.
not being here.
Don chose not to be here
Okay.
because he feels he would get frustrated and would start to get out of line. So he said, I'm better off just letting this guy come air his business, and I'll take what happens, okay? Now, to me, that in no way shows anything cowardly. Now, Tom, what I will do is I'll apologize to you if you think for 1 second that what that guy said in a humorous manner in a bar full of people who raised enough money to keep him playing in their own crowd is the way the people of Croton feel about women or how they should be treated. I apologize, but that's 100% not true. The people in this community are good people, caring people. We respect women. We marry our high school sweethearts. We move them back out here. We raise our families, and we're here for our life. Some of us were born here. Our entire life spent right here, okay? And then occasionally, and I'm not saying this about you, Tom. You are a little bit different in the circumstance we're at. But people move in, they want to change everything about us, okay? We are who we are, and that's what Croton is. And that's why people come here. That's why they like us, because we are who we are. We're pretty outgoing. We're pretty upfront. We'll give you anything you want. But if you think what that guy played in the music represents us, that upset me in the letter a little bit. Okay? It is no representation of us. It was some people having a good time who were speaking in a way they should probably not have been speaking. Okay? But the people in the bar that night appreciated it so much, they went and raised more money to keep the guy going. So I don't know what was said, I wasn't there. Okay, but the only thing we can do as this board is we can address noise in the form of a noise ordinance. We cannot censor what people say and what they comment upon. That is not our role, and it never should be. So all we can do is address the loud music, the loud playing outside. And again, if it's addressed, then it will be enforced evenly throughout the community, and nobody will be happy. Okay, but the way it sits now, this goes on here, it goes on there, and we all try to do the best we can to get along, Tom. That's all there is to it. But it is not endorsed or tolerated or anything by us, and I want to make sure that's clear.
Morgan, you're kind of assuming inside or outsider. You're an insider, I'm an outsider. It's very hard. And you just kind of suggest that.
I'm not assuming that.
What I would suggest, though, is that your job is to balance the interest of all the parties.
I understand that.
To be fair. So what I'm talking about is fairness. It has nothing to do that I'm new to the community and I haven't been around for a long time. What I'm really looking for is a kind of fairness. And I think when you have a public concert, both the loudness, some bands are louder than others, but also the language, I do think because it's public, that is something that has to be talked about and has to be balanced because you have the interest of all the cottagers as well. Don has interests, but other people have interests too. So the job is to balance it, and I don't think it's really a factor whether I'm outsider and not an insider.
Again, I didn't mean that in that aspect. I did not mean that. What I mean by saying that is not our intentions in your letter. Not what we want up here. One guy playing, trying to be funny and a comedian or whatever he thinks he is or whatever it was, joking or laughing, it is what it is. Okay? But again, all we can do is address the noise, how loud it is. Those are the only things what the verbiage and what the wordage is, we cannot address.
Would it be possible to ask the planning commission to at least discuss whether or not, when things are broadcast over loudspeakers outdoors, whether we could have some control over those issues?
It's in here. It's in the noise ordinance, it discusses. Right here.
I looked specifically for it, so you tell me where it's at. Number 8.
Musical instruments, electronically amplified sound. And it shall be unlawful to play any musical instrument or to allow any electrical or electrically produced, reproduced, or amplified sound to emanate from any place, vehicle, or premises between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. As so to be heard more than 100 feet away from your property line, such premises are so that it disturbs the quiet, comfort, and response of persons in any office, dwelling, or other residence.
That's addressing the time frame. What I'm saying is that once it's electronically or amplified, that it has to meet a different criteria.
That is,
regardless
if
of
you're
what
shouting or whistling, it has that.
See, once again, that's geared to this 11 to 7 or 10 to 7 thing.
But if we try to regulate what people put over a loudspeaker, that's stepping on freedom of
Again,
speech.
you got
Well,
one
we can't step
person
on freedom of speech.
that we're talking about that said it won't happen again, and he's gonna take care of it.
Nope.
I don't understand why we can't give the man a chance before we bring the government in.
Morgan?
I wasn't even suggesting that we rewrite the ordinance. I said,
We're only-
could we have them have a discussion about it?
But they've had the discussion. That's my point, they've had it. And if it can be worked out between them and we don't have to hear about it anymore, how much better can that be?
They can't be no better than that. We'll take a couple more comments.
Everybody's concentrating on the Driftwood. I live at 6320 Kerrigan, right next to the sand hill. I hear the same stuff every weekend. Over the boats, and they pound rap music and they're talking about blah, blah, blah and stuff that I don't want to hear. We sit on our deck and we sit on our front deck, we go to our back deck because we can't sit on the lakeside because sometimes people are really annoying. It's part of living on the lake. People go up to Coldwater Creek. They do the same thing. They turn up their stereos. It's outrageous. It's part of it. And you learn to deal with it. We go down and we go down and it's like, hey, I've got my grandkids here. Could you, and some of them say sorry and some of them, you get to see that you're number one. But it's part of it. It's just part of living on the river. We have a party, there's a party out at our house, not only on the weekends, during the week, everything else. There's people partying down there all the time. We deal with the church camp, bringing all the kids over there on the sand hill. We're not only watching, hearing all the music, we're watching people destroy the property next to us. Because they let everybody climb up and down that sand hill, which is, totally ridiculous. But, it's part of living on the river.
Ma'am in the back.
I think censorship on what people are saying is an avenue you're not going to be able to go down because who's going to play God and say what is right and what isn't right? I work for a public school system who has a computer lab, and the children in the computer lab print off pornography. We said, pornography, we're going to stop that. Lawyers came in and said, absolutely cannot stop it. Cannot. What's in your library, you got computers, you can't. Even though you're paying taxpayer, you're talking censorship. So it's going to be a hard one to do. What comes out is a hard one. Because what might offend me might not offend you.
Okay, thank you, folks. I appreciate the comments on this. Tom, the only other thing I can tell you, and I know Andy will back me up on this, is what you think you have for problems with your neighbor multiply by 20, and that's what everybody on the river between here and Gallego faces every single weekend. Them people ain't talking about the sex act, they're doing it in their front yard.
Yeah.
And it is horrible down the river farther. It
That's
ain't
the one I'd like to
doing
stop.
it. That's a mess, and we've had meetings and meetings and meetings, and it ain't got nowhere yet, so. I don't know what'll happen here, and again, I don't mean to stop with that, but, you know, Tom, like I say, this board is willing to sit and listen, this board is willing to do what it can in situations where it can, so.
Well, I appreciate your receiving the letter, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and like I say, anything you need, anything we can offer you, like anytime you come in, we'll give you what you need, what it is. There's things we can't fix, and no matter how hard we try, we ain't gonna fix it. Not this board sitting here, so. Okay, we're gonna move on. The next up is a letter of support, and that's for, written by Abby Watkins, and it's for amending the FERC license. The FERC license is what regulates what consumers can and cannot do with the dams. The Hardy Dam right now is on a 12-foot allowed drawdown from January 1, I believe, to April 3rd. So they can draw the pond down effectively 12 feet in that time frame. And then by April 30th, it has to be full back to capacity. The emergency service is asking that consumers petition FERC to allow that drawdown to go to May 30 instead of April 30. Because they did this entire study about how the rains are coming later in the year now, and we're getting all this April flooding going on, and if Hardy was a little bit lower, a little bit longer, it may be able to help control some of that. Keep in mind the whole time, Rogers Dam, Hardy Dam, Croton Dam were never designed to be flood control. Not in any way, shape, or form. The hydroelectric producing dams, they are not meant to flood control for the river. But if there's an outside possibility it could help, they want to look into this. So what they're looking for is letters of support from the different boards. We said if you want to do that, we would also like you to take a long look at, maybe asking them for a periodical drawdown of Croton Pond. Because right now the license for Croton Dam is whatever comes in has to go out. And the only fluctuation they can have is 12 inches in any 24-hour period of time. So unless there is an absolute emergency of the dam, they're not allowed to draw our pond down and do anything. Now, all of you know that are out on the pond, we've got a serious weed problem starting. We've got sand filling in at every end of the pond, upriver, downriver, over at the Little Muskegon, we got all kinds of problems. If it was possible for them to draw the pond down to allow for some of the dredging, it cuts the cost of that by a third. It'll be amazing what it can do. You can also do a periodic drawdown and then let the ground freeze, and it will kill some of the weeds that are out there and will not let them come back. So there are advantages to us. So we said, look, if you want our support or you want us to look at something for Hardy, we want you to add Croton to it too. So there's a meeting, and the meeting is on Thursday of this week at 6 o'clock in the county commissioners room. And they're going to do the whole presentation again about the rains coming later and everything and why they're asking for this. So I'm asking our board to be up at that meeting to make a decision on whether or not they want to support this with a letter of recommendation and a letter of endorsing this letter of support up at that meeting. So I put this all out so everybody has this information. If anybody in this room wants it, is interested in attending, we'll be glad to get it to you. But that's coming up. And again, the whole FERC amending of the licenses, environmental studies will have to be at. I mean, it's going to be an ongoing thing. I don't think it's something we're going to see in the next few years, even if it was something to go through. But it's a process that needs to start because we do have some pretty serious issues on our pond that need to be addressed in different areas. So that's what that is. Updates on the transfer station. I don't know how many of you have been up there to see what we were doing up there for John, but we ended up pouring. We actually had a couple of people up there at the recycle center fall off the little things we got up there. Different people have gotten hurt. So we had to do something to fix it. Now, we had one member of our planning commission who was very generous and donated some money back to us to put concrete up in there. So we were gonna, all the dumpsters and the recycling on in that one end. And then we're gonna come back and re-gravel all around the edges and get it all tapered so it drains and fix it up there. So that in the spring, it's not just one big mud hole and everything's spread all over. And we'll have our garbage and our recycling, and the recycling will be up on cement where those different platforms and stuff we have for the trailers stay even and people are not falling and getting hurt. So if you got a chance, stop by and take a look at it. Then the other thing we have on the agenda is floodplain maps. The DEQ and, what's the name of the company from FEMA, are updating floodplain maps in our area. So we posted it outside here, we sent notices in the newspaper, and there were 2 meetings up in White Cloud. And basically, the only concerns that were raised in our area about where the floodplain is on Bill's Lake. 2 people come in from Bill's Lake and said that their elevations of flood are not right. So we hooked that guy up with the people from FEMA and the DEQ, and they're working that out. And it sounds like those flood levels on Bill's Lake are gonna get changed. And then he's gonna do, there was no concerns of anybody from Croton Pond or Pettit Lake. And those are our main body of water that have the floodplains in it. That was the whole floodplain thing, and they did a study on it, and I don't begin to tell you how they did it or why they did it, but I've got paperwork on it if you want it. Jim Squires was more involved. Do you have anything to add, Jim?
No, really. If anybody's got any comments or stop in and look at the maps, I'll give you a good idea of what's going on.
Otherwise, I think our area's been pretty fortunate. We haven't flooded well. The dams that don't control the floodplain controlled our area pretty well over the last 100 years. So we've been very fortunate here. The last thing I have on the agenda, well, not the last thing, because we have the garden club. Don't let me forget the garden club. The CPU, Independent Bank, came to me early last week and said they will not take the CPU. And they didn't give a lot of reason why, but I think probably with the little mishap that went on over there, it could be part of the reason. But they didn't give a lot of reason, but they just said the higher ups pulled flat out and said no. So we have to make a decision as to what we're gonna do with it, because they're not gonna take it. We were set to close on July 28th, and we kept it open, or June 28th, excuse me. And we kept it open strictly to work with them, and they said as soon as they knew what was going on with it, they'd let us know, and they'd let us know. They are not gonna take it, so.
Well, the only reason we kept it open was for Independent Bank.
Boy, I thought the decision was made what to do with it. Is there any further discussion on that?
Dan, like I say, as of right now,
I'm gonna make a motion that we, run it till the end of the week and close it on October 18th. At the end of business day, October 18th.
I'll second that. Any discussion? No, Dan, to answer your question, I don't think anything's changed except the fact that we extended it to work with Independent Bank.
Right,
So,
I knew that, yeah.
it's been moved in second to close the post office again, officially because of, yeah. Officially, and, well, like I said, it was set to close on the 28th. It was only because of Independent Bank. So we'll close it on the 18th. Is that what day you said? On the 18th of October. It gives me time to let them know. I talked to Ralph. He knows. Ralph knows all about this, and Ed said, and you can ask him to verify that again at the next meeting company. He knows all about this. So I let him know what was going on, and again, I'm not going to speak for him. We'll ask him to speak, but he said, get it done. So take care of whatever has to be done. Don't hold off because he's not here.
Morgan, Dan, Strickland, Are they gonna post that on a window down there so the
Yes.
locals, okay.
Yes. Yep. And again, I have to go to town and let them know in the wagon. And I appreciate Lonnie giving me till the end of the week and not doing it tomorrow, so.
You gotta vote on it?
And I was gonna say, it's been moved and seconded to close it officially on the 18th. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Last thing we have to discuss is the garden club. We have, the new wall where you come into town on Elm. We have things at the fire department. We have the stuff across the road. We have stuff here. We have a hard time getting the plants and all the stuff they're taking care of. The wall, somebody called me the other day and said there were weeds up there. Well, I'm gonna go up there and pull the plants. I don't know what a weed or a plant is. I'll confess not to know none of it. So what we're looking for is a group that would like to get together, that would volunteer. The township will put up money for the plants and to help take care of it. But if we could get some volunteers to help with these things and put the different plantings in, we're looking to put together a garden club that would really help with that.
Can we change the plants to like rocks and driftwood and something that don't grow?
I'd like to volunteer, but I'm like you, I don't know what to run.
Hold on, again, I don't even want to, I mean, understand, folks, I'm not the neatest looking thing around, and I don't profess to know what's good looking and what's not. So, no way, shape, or form are you getting input on what goes in there and what it does. I'm looking for people with vision, creativity, things I have none of, so
I'm saying you just make it stone and driftwood, and then Bob can just go in there with a Roundup and spray it in the spring. And
The money bushes look very nice.
Yeah, they look nice.
They're very pretty, and so I don't see anything wrong with having those.
No.
like I say, ladies, we'd love to have as many as we can get together, and whatever you want to do up there would be fine with me.
We have talked about putting money aside for
Yes.
plants, but there would need to be somebody to take charge, to take care of the budget, if we put a
Yeah.
small budget together.
I mean, like, we didn't wood bark here, we didn't do nothing around here either, and we're willing to do it, but we get so busy with things going on, and I know Bob's as guilty as I am. It's not a pretty eye, we're not looking for that stuff. We need someone to come up and slap us on the side of the head and say, hey, get this cleaned up up here. You know, those are things we're looking for help with, so if we can get a group together that's willing to do that, we would love to have it. I know you go to Marshall Park in Newaygo, that's all done by Garden Club. They take care of that and do it, it's beautiful down there.
Everything down with the corn stalks go up there now is all done on a budget. Newaygo City puts aside for them, they buy flowers in the spring, they weed and
Take care of
take
it.
care of everything, fertilize it.
But it does look nice.
We put a lot of money into it, we need it trimmed up, we need it taken care of.
So if you know people, or if you're interested, please get a hold of us, so we can put something together and get people in charge. Any other public comments on stuff that's not on the agenda or anything?
I just have kind of a suggestion, because we sit at our house and we hear the different sirens go off. Maybe like in one of your newsletters when we get our wonderful tax bills, maybe you could post in there like what 3 short beeps mean, and then, you know, because nobody knows. I mean, the dam could be breaking, I wouldn't know, it's just another siren.
Well, the good news is the dam breaks, you're gonna hear the guy talk.
But just, you know, but I'm like, you know, I mean, there's the different things, and I know that there's, you know, different things where if you're by a speaker, it says something or something, but when you're in your home and you hear the difference, and a friend was up from Montana a few weeks ago, he's like, what's that mean? I said, I don't have the slightest idea.
Well, that's a good idea, they'll give me
You know?
something to put in that newsletter. I should know what to write there anyway, so.
It would be a good idea, just let us know what the different sirens are.
Any other comments? Dan?
Is what's the reason the turbines aren't working on, they haven't been all summer?
I can't tell you that.
Okay.
I do not know, but I've wondered that myself. But they don't check in with me to let me know what's going on. It's an equipment breakdown? Do you know if they're fixing it or?
No, I don't find him. My inside man retired.
Okay. He's still active though. Yes, sir.
And on the pathways, Dana Strickland.
Dana.
Are they going to taper that off and seed it, or are they just going to taper it off, or what, you know, where the big mounds of dirt are? In a lot of our places, we have that great big trench there.
They're gonna roll that back against the pavement, and I'm sure they're gonna whack dirt all the way down along the side of it.
Okay, so it's not gonna be, my concern was because we got a big belly and between.
that, right?
Yeah, they'll probably fill that valley with stone or something.
Who would we get with, we wanted that big trench in front of us, just fill it in?
You would have to talk to Kelly at the road commission.
Okay.
Kelly Smith at the county road
Instead of
commission.
checking that dirt somewhere else, I could fit, a lot of us there, just fill that stupid thing in and you wouldn't have a drop off there,
Right.
easier to take care of.
You'd have, and again with them, it's, that is a county road.
Okay.
So that all is gonna go through Kelly on that one.
Kelly at Road Commission.
Kelly Smith, yeah, he's the head of the road commission. Jim?
In your little article, try to get the dates that they test the whole, dam failure system.
Okay. Because I know they did that this summer, I actually heard
Yeah,
this.
they do it twice a year, I think. And,
We post flyers out, I think at every store in the bank and.
I just think it's like
but if you,
in early summer and then again in November or something.
you could put it in.
No, that'd be good, yeah. Any other public comments? Dana?
I don't know how many people fish down below the dam for salmon and that, but I've heard several people, they think people are stealing their stringers for fishing. But my daughter-in-law took her out Sunday down there and she got a salmon for the first time. And somebody, I don't think they're stealing them, they actually cut my stringer off. So there's some idiot down there doing that. And public relationship with Croton people, that's not Croton people. But somebody is releasing fish, cutting stringers, and it's crazy.
It ain't like they're gonna save them, they're gonna die anyway.
Yeah, but it's, it's like my daughter-in-law, the first fish she ever gets, you put on a string and you go to get it, and my stringer's cut off.
Sounds like an issue for officers sitting here.
I don't agree. Can you take that?
Great Croton fish game. No, that stinks, because it is a lot of fun, and the salmon are pretty heavy right now. I've heard good reports on that, so. Any board member comments? Donna, you take your motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you.
We're gonna see you tomorrow night?
Yep. Yeah.